Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Amazing Seller Podcast. This is episode number 761. My name is Scott Volker, and I'm here to help you build a future-proof business so you can create the ultimate freedom. But, and there's always a but, you have to take what you learn in this podcast, in this episode, and take action, and you can become the amazing seller of your life. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's do this. All right. Well, hey, we have been really trucking along here and going through the brand building series. If you are just tuning into this episode, well, we recorded 3 other episodes in this series, in this 6-part series of brand building. And really, I want to take you through and recap quickly, and then we're going to be diving in today to all of the ins and the outs of posting content and optimizing for traffic. Now, if you are tuning in for the first time here, or you're coming in on this episode, you're going to want to make sure that you go through the brand growth validation checklist. You can find that by heading over to brandcreators.com. You'll find the checklist there that you can download. Also, a couple of videos there. One of the videos is me going through this process, following along on that checklist, but then taking you through 2 live examples. We're going to help you in that session, or in the part 1 of this that I did in this series, is really identifying our market and validating it has potential for growth. Really, that comes down to traffic and income. All right, so you're going to want to do that. Part 2 of this series was really, once it's past that initial validation stage, we want to then create what we call our home base, our website. We go through domain selection. That's basically a web address. And then we get it ready for traffic, and also for the content pieces, the assets that we're going to be creating. We're going to create a home for them. That's really what we're doing there. And then in part 3, we explored and identified a variety of content that will drive traffic to our site. We also are filling our content buckets, and those 3 buckets are questions, products, and how-to. Again, if you missed that, you're going to want to go back and listen to that. I am going to be including this entire series, once it's done, over on brandcreators.com as part of the free resources there. So again, if you missed it, you're going to probably want to go back to that location and grab all of the training there. All right. So today we're going to be digging in and really going through the steps for content creation and posting on a website, a blog, or a YouTube channel. It all is pretty much the same in a sense, but we do have to go through and figure out what is the content we're going to be creating. And then from there, how are we going to create it? All right. So I'm just going to dig in. All right. Step 1 in this process, after we've been through the previous process, right, of going through and kind of filling those buckets, we want to then establish the content, or the theme of the content. So in this case, I am looking at long tail keywords for the content. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for long tail that speaks and attracts to the right people of my market and my audience, or the niche that I'm in. So I'm going to give you a few examples here, okay, of what this looks like. What is the best router for woodworking? What is the best woodworking vise? What is the best shop vac for woodworking? What is the best dust mask for woodworking? What are the best woodworking chisels? Okay, so that's long tail. It's all around tools. They are product based. So when we get into the monetization side, that will also help. Right now, I'm not worrying about those products necessarily bringing me in any revenue. They will, and we'll dive into that in part 6 actually, of how we will then turn this into dollars. But those are really good keywords because they're long, right? And if someone is searching for what is the best router for woodworking, they're probably interested in woodworking, and they're probably interested in a router, right? So again, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to really be specific, even though that might not get, and I don't know, I didn't look at the numbers, that might not get that many searches. It might get 100 searches a month, right? Well, how would it be if 100 people a month came from that one search over to your website and you had exactly what they were looking for? It's a pretty good chance they're going to consume it, or click on a link, or buy a product, or just at least show up on your website. And did you know, by the way, which I haven't gotten into, which I'm going to do here in part 6, is you can get paid for people just visiting your site without even buying anything? pretty incredible. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's definitely possible, and it's happening, and we're doing it right now, currently in a brand that I'm partnered with right now. Okay. So it's definitely possible, and it definitely works. And that is something that we're also striving for in the long-term game here. Okay. So the other side of it now is, let's talk about content that might not really speak to a product. How about woodworking plans for desk? Or how about woodworking plans for a bed frame? Or woodworking plans for small box, or maybe woodworking plans for a shed, right? Like, there's all of these different ones that could be woodworking, and then you just have to do the research to figure out which long tail ones you're going to be, that you're going to be using, okay? Or that you're going to be creating content around. Now, you could do a full series on just different plans. There's probably, off the top of my head, I could probably think of 20 if I really wanted to. But here's the cool thing. If you are using what I suggested in the previous session and the process that we were going through, is if you use the free tool Uber Suggest, what we can do is we can then take a site that's already doing what we want to do, and we can explore the content and the different plans that people are searching for by looking at their numbers. Okay. So for an example, okay, if I wanted to do this, I could go and type in woodworkersworkshop.com. Okay. And from there, what I can do is I can then start to explore and find those different pieces of content or those plans that people are searching for. Okay. So again, I talked about that in the last session. I'm just bringing it back up again because it is so important to do that. And when you're doing that, there's less guesswork. Okay. And you're finding those long tail. All right. So you want to choose 5 pieces of content, and then you want to create. All right. Don't think about finding the perfect content piece that's going to have the perfect numbers and the perfect analytics and all of that stuff. That stuff there will bog you down. Okay. Would you say, if I was to write this content, what is the best router for a woodworking, or what is the best woodworking vise, or what is the best shop vac for woodworking? Do you think that there's people actually searching for that without you even looking at a tool? I would say yes, without even looking at a tool. So no matter what, I'm going to want that on my website because I know that my woodworking people are probably going to find that useful. Okay. So again, always think about, you're building a resource. Okay. It's like you're building a library of useful, helpful material and links and tips and all of this stuff that people can go to and find everything that they need. That's what you're doing here. Okay. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. This is going to take some time, but it's well worth the effort over time. And the cool thing is building out content sites like this, and then being able to then piggyback off of that traffic, building the email list and doing all of those other things. It really can just start to play off of each other, and it can start to really excel different areas of the business. But again, it starts right here with figuring out what content to write and then writing it, or creating it. Creating it could be video, could be audio, and then converting that or transcribing that over to written word. There's a whole bunch of different ways, and we're going to talk about what to do when you're kind of like stuck thinking like, what am I going to do to create content? Okay. So here's what I want you to consider though. Okay. By the time you get done with this session, with this, this part of the series, what I want you to do is sit down, and I want you to think about 5 pieces of content that you can create, or that you should create for your market, for your niche. Okay. Now, again, it could be written, it could be video, or it could be both. Okay. So why I like written content, just to kind of throw it out there, is I like it because it's indexed by Google. Okay. And search engines, not just Google. Google's the big one, right? But there's Bing, there's Yahoo, there's other little ones out there as well that you could be picked up by. Okay. So I like Google. All right. And hopefully Google likes me by me publishing some really useful content, but that's why I like written. Okay. And the search engines like written content as well. Okay. Using the long tail is going to be your best friend. Okay. Again, here's an example of this. What are best woodworking chisels? So that's a question. Okay. So I kind of took a question out of my one bucket and also a product out of the other one, because I know people are searching for different types of woodworking chisels. So the common question would be, I'm getting into woodworking. What are the best woodworking chisels? Right. So think about that. Now, if you are in a business right now and you're thinking about taking that offline business and bringing it online, like maybe your specialty, and I have a friend of mine that's in the pest control business, if all they were to do is take their questions that they receive on a daily basis and then just take the answer that they give that customer and then repurpose that on a blog and just did that for the next 3 years, they'd have a substantial amount of content that is real, that customers are asking and that people in the market are asking. What we're doing is we're trying to capitalize on search engines, the information they're giving us, the auto suggest and Uber suggest, and any other way that we can come up with ideas of what the market is asking. We want to capitalize on that. We want to be able to really take advantage of that data. All right. So long tail is going to be something you're going to want to really dial in. Okay. So what are best woodworking chisels? That would be a long tail. Okay. Now, like I said, in this case, this content is about products and it's easy and it allows for potential affiliate sales down the line. Okay. But I don't want you to think, oh, well, I can't write that because it doesn't have a product in it. No, don't think about it that way. Again, what is going to be useful to the market? What makes natural sense as well? Like common sense. What is the top 5 questions that you know that all woodworkers are going to be asking themselves as a beginner, as an intermediate, and as an advanced, woodworker? Like there's all different levels too. So you kind of have that sub niche, kind of like within the niche, right? So you have woodworking as a whole, and then you have beginner, intermediate, advanced, right? So again, just giving you some ideas to work through, but I really want you to think about 5 pieces of content. And if you can, create some type of either series or theme, right? So in this case, I'm going through different tools, but also there's some questions in here. What is the best router for woodworking? That's a question, but it's also a product, okay? So now let's move on. All right, so written or video or both, doesn't matter. I don't care. I do like written. So if you do video, I would suggest taking that video, posting it up on YouTube, and then from there, I would have that video transcribed, and then I would edit it somewhat so it reads better than just being a transcription. And then I would add that to the home base, and then I would embed that video over there as well from YouTube. Okay, so we're kind of cross promoting that content on 2 different huge platforms. Okay, that's what I would do. If you're better on video, do that. If you're not, then do the written. If you're not good with written and you can talk, well, then just speak it out, right? Write some bullet points and read through it, kind of like I'm doing right here. I'm literally doing exactly what I'm telling you to do within this episode and in this series. It's exactly what I'm doing. I'm reading, okay, I'm not reading word for word. I'm reading my next point, my next bullet point, right? And then I'll elaborate on that. And you can do that all day long. This series will eventually get turned into some type of guide, most likely. That's how I've always done it. All right. So again, I'm practicing what I preach right now. I decided to do this 6-part series. I'm going to go through and give you guys all this on audio. It's not going to be perfect. I'll then go ahead and have it transcribed. It'll go on the blog. And then from there, I'll probably turn it into a guide that'll be kind of distilled down and everything will be at your fingertips. Okay. So you can do the exact same thing. All right. So let's kind of move along here. I've got a lot more to cover. Okay. So a lot of people say, well, Scott, like what kind of word count do I need if I post, like a written blog post or a content piece? How long should it be? Well, I think as long as it needs to be is a good answer, but I think a rule of thumb is 1,500 to 2,000 words is generally a good rule of thumb. Okay. And again, I mean, I have seen articles get ranked for 750 words, and I've seen some that don't get ranked if they have 1,500 or more, right? It's going to depend on some other factors. But I think if you give yourself a rule of thumb, 1,500 to 2,000 words for these types of posts, questions and product type posts. It's like something like 5 top woodworking chisels or best woodworking chisels. Like that might be 5 different ones. So that would be 1,500 to 2,000 words. Now, if we get into how-to content, that can turn very easily into 2,500 to 5,000 or more. That's what we would call a pillar post. Okay. So we kind of have like these little smaller posts right? And then we have these pillar posts that the pillar post could also be linked to these smaller posts, and the smaller post can be linked back to the pillar post. And it kind of just, it has a lot of interlinking because it's useful, right? If you're talking about something, I might, like right now, I'm talking in this episode and I'm kind of teaching in this episode all about content posting and content creation, right? But there's things that I talked about in the last session that you should probably go listen to if something I talked about doesn't make sense. Or I could say, yeah, if you're having a tough time filling your buckets, go back and listen to the next or the past episode, right? That's what I would do. Okay. So you have these ways of pointing people to the resource that will help them if they're stuck. And that's really what it comes down to. All right. So that's what I would do. That's my standard template for writing, by the way. Okay. But in something like a 1,500 to 2,000 word article, you might be saying like, well, Scott, well, okay, what if someone says, what is the best router for woodworking? You go, the best router in woodworking is the X5000, coping bit, right? There's the answer. That's it. That's all I can write, Scott. No, that is not all you can write. You can say, you can answer the question immediately, which you should, because that's what you want to show up immediately. But then you want to elaborate why that one or those types are better. There's different types. There's a steel one. There's a carbide. There's all different types, right? So I can elaborate why this one here is better for certain joints. If you're doing something else, it might be better if you use a steel one. And again, I'm throwing this way out there. I have no idea what I'm talking about as far as these router bits. I have used a router quite a bit, but I never got into like furniture making type quality. I'm talking like just taking a router over an edge to smooth it out. Like that's as much as I did. Okay. So anyway, that's what you do there, right? Answer the question, but then you want to elaborate on why and different aspects of how you came up with the answer or different things that they should know or consider when choosing one. Right? So that's what you would do there. Okay. But you want to answer those questions immediately. Okay. The other thing is you want to break up the post in blocks of text. I see so many blog posts or content pieces that are just a giant block of text. And my eyes, they start to hurt, and then I immediately abandon that site, right? I don't want that. We want scannable, consumable, I like to call it snackable content. All right. So we want to be able to really scroll through, and we're going to be able to pick out what we want to maybe read a little bit deeper about. It makes it just easier to flow. All right. We're able to then highlight some of bold some of the subheads, which also could help you in SEO. There's all different tags that you can use and all that stuff. And I'm not going to get into that stuff right now because that isn't that important at this stage. Now there are some plugins and stuff, and I'll talk about that here shortly, that will help you with SEO. But right now it's all about just getting something created and getting it up there. But I do know this, that you should definitely answer the questions immediately, get to the point immediately, but then you need to break up that post in blocks of text and definitely bold certain things, subheads. So this way here, it shows up better to the reader, but also it shows up better to the search engines. All right. The next thing is use images throughout to make it easier to follow and explain. Again, if you're reading something, it's really nice in a magazine to see images, right? We all love to see images of an example, or for us to put a picture to the words, or if you're describing a how-to, it's really important that you see images, right? So definitely use images throughout to, again, make it easier to consume. We want to make it super easy to consume. All right. Now, a lot of people say, well, Scott, where do you get images? Well, you can take your own pictures. If you're the one doing the content creation, as far as like you're doing the woodworking, you can take pictures, or you can take stills out of the video, whatever. Or you can go to a royalty-free image place, like a stock image. There's a bunch of them out there, but I'll just give you a few here. There's Unsplash, there's Pixabay, and the other one that I like is Canva. And Canva is nice because you can put text over your image if you want to as well. Canva.com is a good one. iStockPhoto.com is a paid. Adobe Stock Images is another paid. But if you just search royalty-free images, you're going to find a ton. And again, you'll find like maybe Pixabay, which is a free site, you might not find the images for your market there. You might find them on Unsplash. So just, you got to play around with it. But you'll find images, but definitely make sure that you use royalty-free commercial type images. Okay. Make sure that you definitely do that. Now here's a little pro tip for you. Okay. If you are buying royalty-free images, or even you're using the free images that are on a royalty-free site, make sure, and this is really important, make sure you rename that image using your keywords. So I'm going to give you an example. Okay. If I'm doing a post on best woodworking chisels, right, for whatever, woodworking, or the best woodworking chisels for beginner, something like that, I could take that image that I'm uploading and title it Best Woodworking Chisel by Craftsman, because maybe that chisel is a Craftsman chisel, right? Or, because that way there, if someone is searching best woodworking chisel, they could show up, or you could show up in Google Images as well. So it's another resource or another asset that you're adding to that piece of content that would lead people back to your site, right? It's another link coming over that's directing people to the site, okay? Because Google indexes images, okay? A lot of people don't realize this. I can't tell you how many times I see people just using iStock 500 by 500, right? Like that's it, and then it might say, it doesn't even say chisel. It just says image 5 or something, right? Like it has no data to it that would allow it to be indexed and then bring people back over to your, your platform. So you definitely want to do that. It's a huge opportunity that a lot of people don't take advantage of, and you should be. All right. So that's images. Okay. Now let's dive into how we are going to make sure that we do our best with very little effort to make that post very, very SEO friendly. And SEO is just a fancy word or a fancy abbreviation for search engine optimization. You're going to hear that thrown around a lot. SEO, search engine optimization. So there's a plugin out there, depending on if you're using WordPress or not. If you're not using WordPress, I recommend that you do. If you aren't, then I would say make sure that you look at whatever platform that they have some type of SEO plugin or extension that will help you and give you some recommendations. I love Yoast. All of our Brand Creators Academy members are pretty much using Yoast. It's just a great tool, and it's free. You can go to the pro version. I'm still using the free version, and it works great. So you want to install what they call Yoast SEO plugin, and it's on WordPress. And what you want to do is load your post in there, or post your article or your written content, your images, everything. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look at the Yoast plugin inside of that post. It'll literally be in there, and it'll say, you have 3 green lights and you have 5 red lights. And what that means is that there's 5 points that need to be addressed because it's not up to SEO standards. And then it'll give you recommendations on how to fix those checkpoints. Okay. So it's really, really important that you do that. I mean, it could be as simple as include an internal link, right? And then you just go, okay, I've got another post that talks about this, so I'll just link this one to that one, and boom, there it goes. Green light, on to the next. And then once you get that down, it becomes really, really easy. And it's also part of your template now at that point, once you get through that. But that's what you want to do. You also always want to, whether it tells you to do this or not, which it does, by the way, is include external links to other high authority domains. So in this case, let's say that we are in the woodworking space. Maybe I'm going to link over to thisoldhouse.com with Bob Vila, and he's talking about cable systems on a deck that he's been working on. And I'm talking about doing railings in my woodworking project, and I link over to that example. What that's doing is it's telling the search engines that I'm linking out to other useful information, and they like that, right? So we want to make the search engines see the content as it's being useful, and also that we're really going through and making sure that we're optimizing it for Google, because that's what they want, right? So why not give them what they want? All right. So that's just an example there. But again, you're going to be able to see exactly what you need to do depending on the article that's been written or the content that's been posted. And then you can start to really come up with your own system, but you're going to want to use some type of SEO plugin or extension to help you along with that. I like Yoast personally. All right, let's move on. So the next question I always get is, Well, I don't want to write the content, Scott. And I really want to write content, but I don't want to do it. Well, me neither. So there's a few different ways that you can do this. Okay. Number one is you can hire it out. Okay. Believe it or not, there's people out there that are really, really, really good writers, but they don't want to create a blog. They just don't, right? There's no interest there for them. They just love writing. Okay. So there's some places you can go where you can hire people. I've had really good luck with iWriter.com, textbroker.com, FreeUp, where you can actually hire a writer that could work part-time for you, maybe 3, 4, 5 hours a week. Upwork.com is another freelance place. And then Fiverr.com. I haven't really went to Fiverr for articles, but I heard some people have, but I have gone to iWriter, and I've had really good luck there. I've went to FreeUp. I've used them and found writers. And TextBroker, I started going through that process. And then for some reason, I forget now why, but I ended up not going with TextBroker and I just went back to iWriter. I think because I already found writers and I just kind of canceled my application in TextBroker, because you got to do a whole application setup in TextBroker. And I think that was the reason why. But I've heard really good things about them. So again, those are some resources for you. Or you could maybe ask a neighbor that you know likes to write, and you can ask them if they want to write for you for, $20 an article or something like that. You can pretty much figure, if you're going to have an article written of any, of good quality, you're going to probably pay between $25 and $35 for maybe a 1,500 to 2,000 word article, depending on the writer. But that's typically what you can expect to pay. Now, some people would say like, well, that's crazy, Scott. I don't want to do that. I'm going to write it myself. Well, that's fine. How long is it going to take you? And are you going to do as good a job? All right. Because let me just tell you, a few things that happen in these other companies is like iWriter, they have this thing called Copyscape where it'll run through there to make sure there's no duplicate content. So this way here, you're not just hiring someone and they were plagiarizing it and you didn't know it, right? Now you can go to Copyscape, grab some credits, run it through there and make sure. But if you use a service like TextBroker, iWriter, any of those, you can have them, or it automatically runs through Copyscape. But $25, $35 isn't much at all. And you got to also think about, it's a piece of content, an asset, an evergreen piece of content that lives forever. Okay. I know people right now, including myself, that has content that was created 10 years ago that's still bringing in traffic. It's crazy. All right. And that's what you got to think about. Right. And there's also going to be some pieces of content that bring in very little traffic, but there's going to be some that bring in a lot of traffic. All right. It's just part of the process. And you just need to understand that you're creating assets in the business, content, and writing articles or blog posts, videos, whatever. Those are assets. So let's talk now about creating video. Okay. Well, the same concept as written is going to basically follow here, or is going to be followed. It's a very simple flow. And I'm going to give you 4 things to consider when you're creating a video, if you choose to create video. Okay. Number 1, well, wait a minute. Let me time out here for a second. First off, understand that your first video will be your absolute worst. It's going to happen. It's happened for me. Actually, at Brand Accelerator Live, I shared a clip of myself and my wife probably about 10 years ago when I did a video, and I was trying to create this for our photography studio, and it was horrible. And that video never ended up seeing the light of day. Never. But I went on to create a lot of videos throughout our photography business and through our online businesses, and I continue to do it today. Right. But my first one, not that good. Right. But I learned by continually going out there and just improving and being, willing to go out there and just continually create. Okay. So number 1 in this process, what is the video going to answer? What is it going to solve? What is it going to teach? You need to let people know immediately on video why they are there. Don't tell them about all of the things about why you decided to create the video and this, that, and the other thing. The first thing is going to be like, what is it going to be about? So if it's going to be about, what are the best woodworking chisels for your next project, then it would be like, hey guys, this is Scott. And today I want to share with you the top chisels for your next woodworking project. Stick around because that's what we're going to cover. Like, that's it. You show up at that video, instantly that's what it's going to be about. Now, right there when I cut that, when I said, stick around, that's what we're going to be talking about. You could put a little splash logo in there if you want to, but I wouldn't go too crazy. Maybe 3 to 5 seconds tops, because guess what? People are going to jet. They're going to leave. We don't want that. All right. So the other thing that I want to do here is be like, all right, guys, I'm going to be covering these chisels. But before I do, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. I'm going to be reading these. I'm going to be addressing these. Any questions you have, drop them in the comments. All right, let's dig into the content. And then you get right to the point. Keep it short. Let them know what it is that you're sharing with them. If you're doing an unboxing video, dive right in. Show them every part of that process. Walk them through it. Talk them through it, right? Let them see exactly what you're doing, and don't make a ton of small talk, all right? You don't want to be rambling and have people being like, all right, just get to it already, right? We don't want that, all right? Number 4 is then you want to recap and give a call to action. Okay. Hey, subscribe to the channel. Hey, leave a comment down below, right? Anything like that, that's your call to action. And that's it. You're done. Like a video, like you're answering a question or you're going over some, different chisels or whatever. It might be 5 to 10 minutes long, tops, right? That's it. Okay. So now for YouTube, optimizing, pretty similar. You want your title to be your long tail keyword. All right. You want to leave a description. You want to add some tags. They have a little area there where you can add some tags. And then you always want to link to the blog post if one exists. And if it doesn't exist, after you get done recording that video and posting it, you better go create something over on your blog, because why not take that same piece of content and create a written form of it and put it over on your blog? All right. So take that video, have it transcribed into a written form, written version, post it on your home base, and then from there also embed that video now into your blog post. All right. Now, the other thing I just wanted to mention, if you are starting by writing an article with pictures and all of that stuff, you can always then turn that into a video by sharing more visually through the video, or maybe a talking head of you explaining it. Or maybe you don't want to be on camera and you just want to use pictures and then do some narration. You can totally do that as well. The additional benefits, though, is when using written and video, you create 2 pieces of real estate on 2 platforms that drive traffic. Plus, you get a link from the video on YouTube to the website, and you also get the website link to over on the YouTube by embedding it. All right. There's so many benefits to that one piece of content, and you can really leverage that piece of content by doing these types of things. All right. Now, remember this. Okay. And I made a nice little bullet point here for me to remind you. Content is the magnet that attracts the right people in your market. All right. Content creates traffic, and that allows money-making opportunities through a variety of sources, which we're going to be covering later, actually in part 6. All right. But next up in the next episode, we're going to be covering email list building 101. We're going to be talking about amplifying content and creating another traffic channel of the exact people in your market by list building. All right. It's going to allow us to stay in front of our market 365 days per year and continue to deliver value on a regular basis. A lot of people, they just go, you know what? I'm going to launch a product on Amazon and I'm just going to go after buyers. Yes, that's cool, but that's only a small portion of the market. Why not go after the people that are eventually going to buy or might buy today and then might not buy for another 6 months? Why not stay in front of them? Why not be that resource? All right. But again, I just want to stress this. You want to become the number one resource in your market and attract the right people that would be likely to buy or share our content with others. And a lot of people don't realize that. There's people that aren't going to buy from you, but by them showing up on your site, that's going to act as a visitor. As a visitor, that can turn into money just by them visiting, because an ad network can pay you for that. Again, we're going to talk about that in part 6. The other thing that they can do is they can share the content. That's a way for them to pay you as well, because it's going to share it with more people in your market. All right. I know so many people that share a piece of content in a forum or a Facebook group or a Facebook page or Instagram, right? So just remember that piece of content that you're creating can be shared. And that's a form of payment in my eyes. All right. So let's wrap up. We just covered a ton there. Let's wrap this session up. Here's what I want you to do. If you have not downloaded the checklist, the brand growth checklist, the validation checklist as well, brandcreators.com. That's where you're going to want to go. There's also a video there of me walking you through the process of validation and mapping everything out. There's also, depending on when you're going to be listening to this, there's also going to be this series published there as well. So you'll have that in a location that you can access all of these different episodes too. All right. Now, if you want help building your brand and have the support along the way, well, Brand Creators Academy is where we are documenting the process of building a brand from scratch and helping a community of others do the same. But depending on when you're listening to this, our academy isn't open all the time. Okay, we only open it a few times per year. But what we're doing is when we do open, we are letting everyone that has downloaded the checklist, went through our free training, went through this series, we're letting them know first. So if you want to be notified of Brand Creators Academy and when we open enrollment, then all you need to do is make sure you go through that free training. Go over to brandcreators.com, go through the free training, and then we will let you know when we open up Brand Creators Academy once again. All right, guys. So that's it. That's going to wrap up this episode. We've covered a ton. You're probably going to want to go back and listen to this one again. Take notes, go through it. Don't get overwhelmed. Let me just say, do not get overwhelmed. This here can be done and you can do it. You just have to make sure that you go through each process and take action. All right, guys. So that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, remember, I'm here for you. I believe in you and I am rooting for you. But you have to, come on, say it with me, say it loud, say it proud, take action. Have an awesome, amazing day, and I'll see you right back here on the next episode.